A lot of times those subconscious beliefs have started from such a young age and they're just on autopilot. We don't even realize. We just look at the surface level circumstances and we don't realize we have a pattern of self-sabotaging or people pleasing or these things we don't like about ourselves. We can literally go back week after week and work through those thoughts, rewire your brain so you can start living your life in a way that you want to.
Hey, Lucy, welcome to the show. What got you here? What got you to this point? What got you to being a life coach? Where did we start?
Yeah, so with coming to like the hormones and all of that, I feel like it kind of correlates with becoming a life coach because I realized that there's a lot of things that when you get to the root, you can actually start making progress. And so I actually started becoming a life coach with my experience of dealing with stress. I was coming off of medication for anxiety, and I just really needed that extra support for my mindset and how to what I thought was like deal with stress. And so I loved how quickly I was making progress with just learning about how your brain works and getting to the root of like a lot of things that were like kind of keeping me stuck in my personal life. And so just seeing how quickly that was working for me and supporting me, I knew I wanted to like get in on it and support other people too, which like very quickly after got me into like focusing on hormones and my own personal health in that like direction. I even remember like with my buddy coach, when we were getting like our practicum hours in, I even came one day, I was like, okay, I want to talk about hormones today. And she's like, okay, like that's random. And I'm like, I hate them. Like they get in the way. They're confusing. I don't understand them. Like, I feel like I'm missing this whole like education about them. And so we talked about like, how do you want to feel about hormones and all these things? And I think it was probably like a few weeks later, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this Hormone Reset program because I just want to know. I want to like feel confident when it comes to like my body and like, what are your hormones for? And like, how do you take care of them? And so it's funny how like kind of correlated pretty quickly, but understanding that like when you get to the root of things, that's where you can actually like make long lasting like progress, results, all of that. And so I think the life coaching part kind of came in with like wanting to not be experiencing anxiety and panic attacks. And then it makes sense why the health part like correlated with that pretty quickly.
Yeah, they definitely are in tangent. I think that's so funny that you were literally talking about that, like with your buddy coach of like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. And then lo and behold, it just like the perfect opportunity. It's the perfect example of like what you focus on comes around because you're looking for it. And it's, if the Hormone Reset program had just like flown by your page, I don't know, 5 months ago before that, you would have probably not, noticed it. So it's so interesting how the brain works. It's so cool.
Well, and it's funny too, because like I had followed you like for months prior. And so I think like, you know how like you plant the seed, you throw it out there. And like, I think just hearing things, I was like, wait, like I hear people talking about it all the time. Like, why does it feel so like hard for me? And so once my brain was open to like, oh, hormones could actually be like something you could learn about and feel more confident, like the experience can be different, but I had to like let go of this idea that like my hormones were against me, my body's against me, and like just really open myself up to what could it look like. And then where like I was ready to like actually join a program and commit to it and invest time, energy, and like all of that into it.
Yeah, 100%. I get that. So can we I guess go back a little bit, like what were the symptoms that you had going on that made you feel like hormones suck, that you couldn't have any knowledge or control over them?
Yeah, I think a lot of times postpartum anxiety and depression was kind of new for me. And I didn't really hear a lot of people talk about it, but I would just hear hormones a lot. Like, oh, your hormones are imbalanced, or like, oh, it's a hormonal thing. And so I think that's kind of where I started just having this like negative like opinion about hormones, like, oh, like they suck. Some of the symptoms that I was experiencing at that time was like weight gain. Like I gained weight like pretty quickly in like, I would say maybe a 6-month period of time. I put on about 15 to 20 pounds and I was like kind of stuck there. and I was like eating healthy. I was exercising regularly, but it got to the point that even like going to the gym, I remember I even hired like a personal trainer because I was like, maybe I just need somebody to like help me, like I'm at a plateau or something. And I would like show up for the workouts and I'm like, I'm so fatigued. Like I'm so tired. And I would like leave like in tears feeling like, I feel like my body's like not even responding to like things that are supposed to help you lose weight, you know? Like I don't feel great. And so just like fatigue, weight gain, irritability, I wasn't ovulating, just like the intense like mood swings before that time. I obviously like low progesterone.
Yeah.
And so hair loss, like hair thinning, things like that. So kind of just like
That's a
overall
lot.
like
I did not feel good.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's so crazy too, because I don't think anyone joins the Hormone Reset program because they have one thing going on. But it's like, I know hormones are an issue, but I have all of these, symptoms of things that are going on. And so I have to give you credit. Like, Lucy showed up to every group call. I think I saw you on every group call.
I think I did.
I don't think you missed a single one. You were like,
Even
I
when like
am
we were
here.
on vacation, I was like, okay, guys, like I'm gonna go in
Yeah.
the corner, like don't bother me.
Yeah. You were on it. And I distinctly remember this because I remember we were traveling and we had a call. I was trying to do it on my phone and my phone overheated.
Oh yes, I
Just
remember that.
literally like shut down the call. And I was like, hello phone. It's like, it's too hot. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So we finished the call with me holding my phone over an air conditioning vent. It was
Right.
an adventure. Let's kind of like walk through this experience, because what I really love about your story is that there were so many facets to it, as with everybody, but you were ready. Even if like I would say something and in the moment you're like, I don't like that, you would walk away and you would think about it and be like, okay, so why do I not like that? Like, why do I not want to do that? But there was, as with all hormones, like there's so many different steps. And I know blood sugar was a really big one for you. And then, food cycling was a really big one. And then when we came in with minerals, that was another big one. But a really big part for you was the emotional part and the emotional journey. So can you kind of share like your experience of like stacking all of those? Because I think it's really, really tangible to be like, oh, balancing my blood sugar, I've got that. But then some of the other stuff can definitely be stackable.
Yeah. So I think that what got me with the emotional side was feeling like, okay, I'm showing up, I'm doing all the steps, like I'm implementing the protocol, and feeling like a few months later, like I wasn't noticing the weight loss yet. And I was still feeling like there was an overall stuckness, maybe would be a good word. And you had posed the question, like, if you're doing everything right and you're implementing your protocol and like you can be honest and know like you're doing the steps, then could it somehow be serving you? And like your hormone imbalance serving you? And that question really, like at first I was like, absolutely not. Like, I don't like having weight gain. I don't like feeling moody. Like, I don't like hair loss. Like all these things that instantly I was like, oh no. But like, I also know I ask people those questions too, like when I'm coaching them. And so, taking those questions seriously myself, it didn't actually take me very long to be like, oh, wait a second. Like I actually can like correlate that with safety. Like I feel very safe, like hiding behind it, using it as an excuse for things that like are uncomfortable conversations for me. If I can just say like, oh, like I have hormone imbalance, then like nobody really like pushes further. So like I didn't have to dig deeper or actually sit with some of the like deeper fears or feelings that I was having when it came to like being healthy and having babies and growing a family. Like somebody would hint at like, oh, are you going to have another one soon? Instead of dealing with like the emotional side that I had experienced, I was like, oh, like I can't, like hormone issues. And they'd be like, oh, okay, like hope that works out for you. And I'd be like, cool. He's like, we're moving on. We're done with the conversation. Phew, I dodged to like, uncomfortable conversation for myself, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I had talked to someone recently about gluten, and she has a gluten sensitivity. And it's really funny because she's really good friends with somebody who has literally reversed celiac. And so I said, why haven't we just gotten rid of your gluten sensitivity? And she's like, well, I actually like having it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why? She goes, well, like their extended family don't necessarily always want to eat what they're eating.
Yeah.
And she said, our whole family is gluten free. And so when we go over, it's just super easy to say, oh, we're gluten free.
Yeah.
And I don't have to have the conversations of like, well, I don't like what you're eating. We don't want to have the food dye. We don't want to have whatever.
Yeah.
So to keep that relationship with that our family and not having those conversations, it's easier to just keep my gluten sensitivity. And I'm like, it's so interesting, like how those things literally serve us, because postpartum was really hard for you and it was an emotional roller coaster. And it is hard to, talk to someone and be like, I'm actually really kind of scared to go through that again. So I get that. And all along this journey too, the reason why, we knew there was something else going on is that you had made progress. Like your periods were better, PMS was a lot better. You were finally ovulating again. Like we had all of these things where we're like, okay, Lucy is on the right path. She is having the wins. But of course, we want you to 100% get there. And sometimes it's a little bit of an emotional hang up kind of. So what were the steps that you kind of had to take to get over like, no, that's not me, to, okay, maybe that is me, but how do you get to that other side? Because it's not just awareness of like, oh yes, like that is what's going on.
Yeah. I really think that when there's like, fear, or there's, when you can recognize that something's keeping you safe, like your brain's just trying to keep you safe, which we know it's only job, right? So like having gratitude for like, oh wow, like you were just trying to keep me safe, but like it's in there, like those thoughts are there, those beliefs are there that you're holding. And so it's really costing you this future that you want to have. Like you want to have a healthy, relationship with your body. You want to have like balanced hormones, and you want to be able to have the option to have more kids in the future if like that's what God wants for you. But it just kept me safe, being able to know like, okay, like I don't have to worry about that right now because like my hormones are just not like there. So I don't really have to face those fears. And I think with postpartum anxiety and depression, at least for me, I didn't have a lot of awareness going into like growing family. And like I maybe just people didn't talk about it, or maybe I just didn't really know people who had experienced it. And so after my first, I was very proactive with my second. I did counseling during my pregnancy, I did counseling. I ate like what I considered super healthy at the time. Now understanding like blood sugar balance, I can see like, okay, it was healthy, like more like wholesome, but not necessarily as like blood sugar focused. And then I exercised regularly. Like I loved co-sleeping with my first, which I know like that can be controversial, but like I loved like just sleeping with the baby, holding the baby. But like I sleep trained from the beginning with my second to make sure that I was getting adequate sleep. So feeling like, okay, I did all the measures, and then for it to come back, it then made me feel like something's wrong with me. Like this is like an isolated incident where like I'm the only one in the world, which, our brain can just do that and make us feel like, okay, like you're broken. And so like having to actually like face those fears and question those beliefs, that was going to like just keep me where I was at. Like I wasn't going to be able to heal unless I could like actually sit down with those thoughts, sit down with those beliefs, and really question if that was 100% true. And the people pleasing side of me that I've been like really working to overcome didn't want to disappoint family or didn't want people to, what I thought was judge me, even though like I could know that they were coming from a good place. I think really what was deep down inside was self-judgment. Like I felt that I was like no one can make me feel a way that I didn't already feel, if that makes sense. So like, even if someone were to have a judgment, that should be okay. But if I'm believing something about it, then that's where it hurts. And so like, I was disappointed in myself. And so once I was able to realize like, okay, like I actually did do everything that I possibly could to prepare myself. And I did everything I knew how, but it doesn't mean that that's all there is out there, you know? And so I feel like that's where I got to realize like, okay, I am safe. I know God loves me, whether or not I have just these 3 kids or 12 kids. I know that I am safe to heal because I can handle moving forward, feeling that this is between God and I. And even if family maybe felt disappointed, then I would be okay that I could hold space for their feelings, knowing that it was coming from a place of love and them wanting what they thought was best. And so then it was like instantly, like within a week, like my body just like shifted to a different state. And then like from there, like a big one for me was like, I just felt like I was stuck with the weight that I had gained and I couldn't lose it, like no matter what I was doing. And then like just it started coming off. And so within a month, like I lost 6 pounds. And then since then, it's progressively just like either maintained or I've been able to lose more. So since that was, I think, December when I first started that. So we're into May. And since then, I've lost 10 pounds, but I feel strong and I feel like I'm getting that energy back and endurance and just more days where I feel like myself versus not. And so the healing actually got to start on that emotional level. But it really took like having to face those fears, realize that I am okay. And that if I wanted to hold on to those fears, like it wasn't going to align with that desire of having a healthy body and balanced hormones and openness to what the future could hold for us.
Mm-hmm. I think that healing is so nuanced because there's just so many aspects to it. And that's why really in the Hormone Reset program, we look at it from that holistic side, because you can take all of the right supplements, you can have the perfect protocol, but if like our mental and emotional state is not on board with this, like you just have really expensive pee. But then also you you can do all of the mental and emotional work, but you sometimes also need that other support as well. Like you need to have balanced blood sugar. You need to be supporting those foundations. You need to actually be working with your body. So I think it's so important when you're dealing with your health to realize that there's so many different facets of it. And I have to commend you for that, because the one thing I tell people before they join HRP is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, like how committed are you to making change? And if you're like, I'm a 10, just show up with an open mind. Like this works. It really, truly works, but you do have to just implement the steps. And you were like, okay, Leah, I don't want to do this next thing, but I will.
Yeah. There was definitely a lot that like came up for me that was so good though, because I feel like even when it comes to like diet culture or eating healthy, there were so many things that I would do to like get to a certain place, but then it was like it would drop off. And so of course you're not going to have sustainable results if like you're just doing it like for that vacation or for that number on the scale or whatever it is. And so it really changed my mindset around, health and fitness and like nurturing my body, taking care of my body. And I think that's probably one of my favorite parts is like my relationship with my body changed so much. Even to when I got my mineral testing back, like I felt so grateful instead of looking at it as like, oh, I still have all this progress I need to make on this, mineral level or cellular level or things like that. It didn't feel at all daunting or disappointing. It felt very like, oh, like we're working together. You've worked so hard. And like, it's so exciting to see that like we're going to make improvement because we know what we need to like plug into We know what our body, like what it needs. And now I just get to follow that protocol. And if I have a day where it feels rough, like it doesn't mean that I'm not healing or on the right track. I don't have to make it mean something that like, oh, this is forever, you know?
Yeah. Healing is never linear. Yeah. You're going to have hard days. You're going to have great days. The idea is to have more great days than hard days. Keep it going up. Um, it's so interesting, the people's response when they get an HTMA, because there's some people that, like, if their HTMA comes back showing all of these deficiencies, they're just like, Alleluia, I am not crazy. Like, there's answers. And then there's the people that are like, what do you mean? I'm doing all of the things and I still have these deficiencies. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you would have tested before you were doing all the things, it could have been a lot worse. Like, I don't know. So I think it's always enlightening and interesting to see how women respond to getting that HTMA back. So, so what was one of your favorite tools that you've learned in HRP?
Oof, one of my favorite. I feel like HRP like changed my life, like not to be dramatic, but like just I would say maybe the blood sugar balancing, like when it came to just like a lot of the educational pieces that I feel like should be common knowledge but aren't. I felt like that was really, really helpful, especially because I feel like since I was like a teenager, I've struggled with my blood sugar. But not always, like kind of just feeling like, oh, that's something that ran in our family. And so therefore it's just something I have. But even like last night we were going to, my daughter's concert at school. And instead of like trying to make sure that the kids all had like, snacks or, you know, that they needed to like sit still during it and be quiet, I was like, telling my husband, I'm like, we're going to have a really great blood sugar balancing dinner. So I was like, we're all going to like be stable. And so like, that is something I feel like daily, I'm always like, whether it's with my kids, whether it's myself, all of us, like we talk about protein, we talk about fiber. Like that was something that I felt like, there was just so much education. So I think for me personally, that was a really, really big difference for me. And then I just love, how there was like the continual support, like the group calls, even now, like the alumni calls, I always have something that I can take away and like implement. And so I don't know, it's just always like up and up, I feel like.
Yeah. I think so many people feel that way about blood sugar balance because a lot of people will join HRP and they're podcast listeners or they've been following on Instagram and they're like, I thought I was balancing my blood sugar. And then after having everyone like, you know, you and Caitlin, Marisha look at my meals and then made some changes, I was like, I was not balancing my blood sugar before. So when you nail it, you know, because I mean, you just have so much more energy. Your mood is so much more stable. And I was 100% with you. I just thought that like hangriness ran in my family. Like it was a running joke. And I'm like, I would pass out. Like if I went too long without eating, I'd be like, oh, I'm getting hot. Like I'm getting woozy. And I just thought, oh, that like runs in my family. It's an issue. No, I just wasn't balancing my blood sugar.
Yeah. And when you think of it as like, oh, I did that for years to my body, like, no wonder my body has like a lot of feedback it's giving me all the time. It's struggle. So
100%. The other thing that I really like about blood sugar balance is it sits in a neutral territory. So I think a lot of times people will hop on these diets and they'll be actually unconsciously balancing blood sugar just because they've removed so many foods. But then it's not sustainable and then they hop off and then they don't see the results obviously that they want. And that's where I love when you balance blood sugar, it's neutral. It's not that you can't eat things. You just have to pair things together well. And when you understand that and are able to practice that, I feel like that gives you a lot of food freedom because it's not like, oh, I can never eat these foods. It's just, how can we set my body up for success with them kind of?
Yeah. And I also like would separate carbs a lot. And so learning to like dress your carbs and then actually that carbs are important for your thyroid. for some reason I would just be like, oh, I don't want to deal with like the carbs because they don't make me feel good all the time. And so it was almost like I think I subconsciously was doing more keto, even though I wouldn't ever say that I did keto, but it was more just, oh, I just wouldn't really like do a lot of carbs. Or if I did, I wasn't like eating them in the right order or with enough fats to help like and protein and stuff to like actually have it be more gentle. But now it's like, oh, I can eat carbs, but I'm going to do it in a way that's not going to make me feel like I need to go take a nap.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably resonate with that where they're like, carbs put me in a carb coma. My mom used to say that a lot. She's like, I don't digest carbs. And I'm like, well, you do. We just need to work on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So you are a life coach. I would love for you to kind of like share a little bit about what you do if you're open to that.
Yeah, sure. So I think that just kind of like what we've been talking about, getting to the root and like really digging into what, because a lot of times people come to me with like a circumstance that they don't like. Something's happening in their life that's really like, whether it's issues with like relationship or anxiety, panic attacks, like whatever it is, there's something that's making them feel out of control and pain. And so we get to work with what the thoughts are, like get to the root of what is creating those feelings and the actions that they take from those. And so then we get to like rewire their brain, like hold some new thoughts, question the beliefs that they had, because beliefs just come from like what you've experienced or what you've been exposed to. And a lot of times those subconscious beliefs have started, from such a young age and they're just on autopilot. And so we don't even realize, like we just look at the surface level circumstances and we don't realize that like, oh, if we have a pattern of self-sabotaging or people pleasing or these things we don't like about ourselves, we can literally go back week after week and work through those thoughts, rewire your brain so you can start living your life in a way that you want to. And so it's something that I don't think it'll ever get old. I think that anybody would benefit from coaching because I think that everybody has their own circumstances or things they've been exposed to that like create a lot of stress. And I think especially in our day and age when it seems like anxiety has become so normal, like I really want the next generation to not have that, And so especially like for moms, we get to like set the tone in our house. We get to, show them, like, I believe more is caught than taught. And so if we show them, like, even for myself, like, I take my health seriously and it's worth investing and getting my hormones balanced because I don't want my daughters to go through that. I don't want them to go through their whole health journey that starts at such a young age when you hit puberty. Like, I did not want them to feel like their body was against them, that it was painful, or that they just would not feel like themselves for, it comes every month, if at least for most people. And so it's just one of those things that I feel like, with other areas of life too, like you get to show them. And so that's why investing in like your emotional and mental well-being, like I just think is so important and why I love helping people. So that way they can actually show up how they want to. And I think one of the best parts is actually showing them like why your brain works that way. It's actually like, you can thank your brain, like it's serving you, like it really wants to keep you safe. Instead of just feeling like I'm stuck like this is just the way I'm born or made or whatever. And so you can really just like work with those thoughts to, change whatever it is in your life that you desire to change. So
literally whatever. That's how cool brain rewiring is. I think some people are just like, no, I'm just this way. And I'm like, if you want to be that way, great.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine.
Yes.
But if you don't want to, you can change it.
Yes.
It's always so cool.
It's almost like
so I'm going to
uncomfortable enough to want.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I love what you said. And we say that a lot, like your kids catch more than they're taught. And so I think often we want our kids, to have amazing health and like we'll feed our kids these amazing foods, but then we're just like eating leftovers and grabbing whatever. And it's like, well, we are teaching our kids like that's what you do, So I think that's really, really, really important. So if you are interested in learning more about HRP, I'm going to put a link in the show notes for a free training where you can learn about the foundations of hormonal balance, like what you need to actually be doing to see those results. So that would be a great place to start, is the free training. And I'll also put Lucy's Instagram so that you can connect with her. So thank you so much for coming on. If you have any last thoughts you want to leave with everyone, we are open to hearing them.
I would just say, like, when it comes to investing in like your health and like your hormones, like you can either, like, time's going to pass no matter what. Like, either next year from now, you're still going to be having the same symptoms, maybe worse, or you could be at a completely different place. Like, I started last year. And so to be able to look and like see that in this year, like it's felt slow at times, but like it all worked together for this like bigger picture, this bigger goal, and this vision that I had for my health. And now I can say like, oh, I'm fit, toned, muscular. I have energy. Like, I can say those things and I believe them because I'm actually getting to see the results of it too at the same time. And so, I'm a firm believer that what you invest in, like, you'll reap the harvest of what you like sow into. And so your health is a great place to start, like, taking care of you. And especially like with your program, because you add so much mindset stuff and you have health coaches who are like really supporting people, like, it's the best of both because you're not just giving them protocols, but you're actually supporting them in that like deeper healing, that emotional side that I think that, if people are struggling with that, which there probably are at least elements of it, it can be just like, it's such a full package. So
those are just words of wisdom because I think we are scared to invest sometimes because what if I invest and then I don't see the results? Because that's probably happened in the past. Well, like there's a reason why this has worked for 500 plus women. Like, we are going to make sure that you see those results as long as you are showing up with an open mind and ready to go. But we often just think that something is going to magically change. Like, if I still have these symptoms in 6 months, then I'll do something about it. And it's like, well, if you aren't doing anything about it, why do you think they're going to magically disappear? They're not. They're probably just going to get worse. We have someone that just joined this round and I had been chatting with her and then she sent me a message. She's like, I'm ready to go. I was kind of like, oh, I'll just wait till the next round. I don't need to do this right now. And then I was thinking, well, I'm just going to be worse off in 6 months. So why would I do that? That's dumb.
Yes. Like, if you can get to the root, which this is what that program is for, is like actually getting to the root of everything, then yes, you could like take measures to like live healthier. But I was already doing that. Like, I was proof of like eating healthier, working out, looking into different supplements and all those things and not making the progress. And that's where the defeat and the frustration comes in because you feel like you are doing everything. But like, if you open your mind to like, is it actually everything? Then you can really see like, oh, maybe there's just a different way of doing it. And it doesn't have to be alone by myself trying to figure out like, well, have I been taking this supplement long enough to notice? Like, I don't know.
That's so true. Thank you so much for hopping on.
Oh, you're welcome.